On June 13th, 2001, Jason Jolkowski, a 19-year-old college student from Omaha, Nebraska, vanished without a trace. Jason was described by family and friends as a quiet, kind, and responsible young man. At the time of his disappearance, he lived with his parents and younger brother. Jason had recently attended college at Iowa Western Community College and was considering transferring to a broadcast journalism program at Bellevue University. He worked at Fazoli's, a local Italian restaurant, and was highly regarded for his dependability and good work ethic. Importantly, Jason was not known to be involved in any high-risk behaviors like substance abuse. On the morning of June 13th, Jason was scheduled to work at Fazoli's. His car was in the shop for repairs, so his employer arranged for him to meet a co-worker at Benson High School, located 8 blocks from his home, where he would catch a ride to work. Jason left his home around 10:45 a.m., reportedly in good spirits, and began walking to the high school. Witnesses saw him carrying a red work shirt and black dress pants, the uniform required for his job. However, Jason never made it to the high school, which was confirmed by the security cameras there, which showed no signs of him. A neighbor reported seeing Jason taking out the trash earlier that morning and noted nothing unusual. What happened to him in the short 8-block stretch remains a mystery. When Jason failed to return home or show up at work, his family quickly grew concerned and contacted the Omaha Police Department. The investigation initially focused on the short route Jason would have taken to Benson High School. Despite extensive searches of the neighborhood, no physical evidence was ever found. No clothing, personal belongings, or signs of foul play. Jason's bank account and cell phone remained unused after his disappearance, and there were no verified sightings of him. Law enforcement also explored the possibility that Jason had run away, but this theory was dismissed based on his behavior and character. By all accounts, Jason was close to his family, excited about his future, and showed no signs of wanting to leave voluntarily. The lack of evidence in Jason's case has led to numerous theories about what might have happened to him. One theory is that Jason was abducted while walking to Benson High School. Given that he was a young person, some argue that he could have been targeted by an opportunistic predator. However, there's no physical evidence to support this theory, and witnesses didn't report any suspicious activity in the area. Further, Jason wasn't exactly an easy target for a predator. He was 6'1" with an athletic build, not the typical target for an opportunistic perp. Another possibility is that Jason suffered some kind of accident, such as being struck by a vehicle, and his body was hidden by the responsible party. This theory is also speculative, as there's no evidence of an accident or cover-up. Personally, I don't like this theory for 2 major reasons. First, an accident such as this would have occurred in an urban area during the late morning hours. I find it difficult to believe that there would have been no witnesses, or that the perpetrator would have time to clean up all evidence from the scene. Although unlikely, some have speculated that Jason chose to disappear. His family strongly rejects this idea, citing his happy demeanor, plans for the future, and close relationship with his loved ones. The most plausible explanation is that Jason encountered foul play, but the details remain unclear. Without witnesses or evidence, this theory is difficult to investigate further or even speculate on. However, all evidence suggests that Jason was kind and helpful, and unfortunately, it may be the case that someone took advantage of this to eliminate him. Hey everyone, it's Jimmy here, just reminding you to share this video with your friends and family. If you enjoy my content and want to help me out in a small but meaningful way, please click that share button and send this video to 2 people. Alain Kahn, born on September 14, 1944 in Paris, France, was a French singer-songwriter whose career spanned from the early 1960s until his mysterious disappearance in 1990. Alain's musical journey began in 1963 when, at the age of 16, he released his first single, C'est l'amour. The following year, he produced 3 albums with Decca Records, featuring covers of popular American and Canadian artists. Despite these early efforts, mainstream success eluded him during this period. In the 1970s, Can traveled to London, where he was profoundly influenced by the burgeoning glam rock scene, and particularly David Bowie. This inspiration led to a significant transformation in his musical style. He returned to France and started releasing glam rock-inspired tracks, a complete departure from his previous style. Throughout the late 1970s and 1980s, Alain continued to evolve artistically, releasing a variety of albums which had some success in the French market. Despite his contributions to the French music scene, Can remained relatively underground, cultivating a dedicated but niche following. On April 14, 1990, at the age of 45, Alain Can disappeared without a trace. He was last seen at the Rue de la Pompe metro station in Paris. Despite extensive investigations, no concrete information has surfaced regarding his fate, and he remains missing to this day. A number of theories have been raised about his disappearance. The most common theory is that he chose to end himself voluntarily. According to his sister, Alain may have been HIV positive, which was highly stigmatized at the time and viewed as a slow death sentence. Another theory suggests that he was sick of his life as an aging, fading star and simply wanted to get away from it all. There's some evidence to support this theory, with unconfirmed sightings of Alain being reported in Switzerland throughout the 90s. However, the sightings of him slowed to a trickle and then stopped by the early 2000s. Astrology, the belief that celestial bodies influence human affairs, has roots stretching back to ancient civilizations. The earliest known records of astrological practices date to Mesopotamia around the 3rd millennium BC, where the Sumerians observed planetary movements and linked them to terrestrial events. These observations were further developed by the Babylonians, who created the zodiac, a division of the sky into 12 equal parts, each associated with specific constellations. In ancient Egypt, astrology was intertwined with religion and governance. The Egyptians adopted the Babylonian zodiac and associated it with their deities, using celestial events to guide decisions and predict outcomes. Similarly, in ancient Greece, astrology merged with philosophical thought. Philosophers like Pythagoras and Plato considered the cosmos a harmonious entity, and this perspective influenced astrological interpretations. The Greeks also introduced the concept of horoscopic astrology, focusing on individual birth charts to predict personal destinies. A pivotal figure in the history of astrology is Claudius Ptolemy, a Greco-Roman scholar of the 2nd century AD. His work, the Tetrabiblos, systematically compiled astrological knowledge of his time and became a foundational text for subsequent generations. Ptolemy's approach sought to align astrology with the scientific understanding of his era, emphasizing the influence of celestial bodies on earthly events. During the Islamic Golden Age, astrology experienced significant development. Persian Islamic scholars translated and expanded upon Greek astrological texts, integrating them with their own astronomical observations. Astrology was considered a legitimate science, and its principles were applied in medicine, agriculture, and daily life. In medieval Europe, astrology was intertwined with various aspects of society, including medicine and politics. Astrological charts were used to diagnose illnesses and determine auspicious times for medical procedures. The Renaissance period saw a resurgence of interest in astrology, with mainstream scholars like Johannes Kepler, known for his laws of planetary motion, practicing astrology alongside astronomy. The 17th century marked a turning point for astrology's status as a science. The rise of the scientific method and empirical research led to skepticism about astrology's validity. Figures like Isaac Newton demonstrated that celestial bodies followed natural laws, diminishing the perceived mystical influence of stars and planets on human affairs. Despite its decline in scientific credibility, astrology has persisted into modern times, often categorized as a pseudoscience by skeptics. Numerous scientific studies have tested astrology's claims, often finding no empirical support. For instance, a double-blind study published in Nature in 1985 concluded that astrologers couldn't match natal charts to psychological profiles better than chance. Similarly, a meta-analysis of multiple studies found no evidence supporting astrology's predictive power. From a believer's perspective, astrology isn't just a casual hobby or form of entertainment. It's a deeply personal and mystical practice that helps individuals understand themselves and others. Those who believe in astrology view the positions of celestial bodies as holding real power over human personality traits, life paths, and even the timing of significant events. At the heart of modern astrology is the belief that the universe is interconnected, and that humans are influenced by the cosmic forces surrounding them. For believers, astrology is about much more than daily horoscopes. It's a tool for self-reflection, spiritual growth, and sometimes even guidance in decision-making. A core belief in astrology is that the planets and stars emit energies that interact with human beings. Believers often feel that these cosmic energies can affect moods, interactions, and personal growth. For instance, they see Mercury retrograde, a period when the planet appears to move backward in the sky, as a time prone to communication breakdowns, technology issues, and personal introspection. The idea that celestial bodies have specific energies resonates with many believers who feel these shifts palpably in their daily lives. The belief here isn't strictly scientific but experiential. Many astrologers and astrology followers claim they have felt, observed, and responded to these patterns over time. Furthermore, believers see birth charts as a cosmic blueprint that reveals an individual's strengths, weaknesses, and life purpose. The detailed nature of a natal chart, which maps planetary positions at the exact time and place of birth, offers insights that resonate on a psychological level. By interpreting their birth chart, they gain a sense of meaning and purpose that goes beyond the randomness of daily life. On January 24, 1984, 19-year-old Timothy Michael Molnar vanished under circumstances that continue to baffle investigators and his family. A dedicated student at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach, Florida, Tim was known for his punctuality and commitment to his family and education. That morning, he dropped off his 14-year-old brother, Frank, at school and was expected to attend his classes thereafter. However, instead of heading to the university, Tim returned home, loaded his bicycle into his 1969 Dodge Dart, and drove away, never to be seen alive again. When Tim didn't return home that evening, his parents immediately sensed something was amiss. He was known for adhering to his routines, and any deviation was unusual. Concerned, they contacted his friends and the local authorities, but no one had any information about his whereabouts. That night, the family received 2 unsettling phone calls with only silence on the other end, leading them to wonder if Tim was trying to reach out, but was unable to speak. Weeks later, a clue emerged when the Molnar family received a credit card bill indicating a purchase at a gas station in Lake City, Florida, made on the day of Tim's disappearance. The gas station attendant recalled Tim refueling alone, which intensified speculations about his intentions. Further investigation revealed that Tim had withdrawn nearly all his savings, leaving just $10 in his account. The fact that he left $10 in the account has been theorized by some to indicate that he intended to keep this account open and active. According to this theory, Tim may have been planning on returning to his regular life. Otherwise, he would have just withdrawn it all. 4 months after his disappearance, another lead surfaced. The family received a letter from a car repossession company in Atlanta, Georgia. The letter stated that Tim's Dodge Dart had been found abandoned in a parking lot just a block away from the Greyhound bus station, 6 days after he vanished. Inside the car, his driver's license, wallet, credit card, and other personal items were discovered, but his bicycle, stereo system, and an expensive toolkit were missing. Despite these developments, years passed without any significant breakthroughs. In 1996, over a decade after Tim's disappearance, a viewer named Stephen Cull was watching an episode of Unsolved Mysteries that featured Tim's case. Cull recognized the clothing shown in the episode as matching those found on a body he had discovered frozen in ice in a remote woodlot near Neosho, Wisconsin, 10 years earlier. He contacted the medical examiner, who still had a set of keys found with the deceased. When the Molnar family provided a copy of their house key, it matched one of the keys in evidence. DNA testing ultimately confirmed the remains were indeed Tim's, putting to rest any doubts. The discovery of Tim's body in Wisconsin, nearly 1,500 miles from his home, raised more questions than answers. The cause of death couldn't be determined due to the condition of the remains, but there were no signs of trauma. How and why Tim ended up in such a remote location remains a mystery. Friends and family found it particularly perplexing that he had left his cherished car behind, as he was known to be very proud of it. Tim's story is as tragic as it is baffling. At 19, he was right on the cusp of adulthood, a time when responsibilities grow heavier and new pressures can emerge. It's during this late adolescent or early adult period that mental health crises can strike, and at times, without much warning. Could Tim have experienced some type of psychological breakdown that prompted his sudden exit? The abrupt decision to abandon his routine, withdraw nearly all his savings, and leave his cherished car behind might point to a severe internal struggle. All evidence seems to suggest that he was a high-achieving student, and oftentimes the transition from high school to college can be a real mental shock. This could have been the catalyst for some sort of mental break which ultimately led to his demise. Yet foul play clearly can't be dismissed either in this case. Tim's unexpected journey all the way to Wisconsin, where his remains were eventually discovered, leaves a serious sense of foreboding. Did someone manipulate him into traveling so far from home? Could he have encountered danger after voluntarily leaving? There's simply not enough evidence to say. The missing bicycle and tools add a layer of suspicion, hinting that someone else might have been involved. While researching the case, I saw it mentioned on an old forum that he may have been hitchhiking after abandoning his vehicle. One theory is that he may have been picked up by the wrong person, who eliminated him. Another angle is the possibility of a secret life. Sometimes people, especially young adults feeling boxed in by expectations, contemplate escape. Perhaps Tim had aspirations or connections that he kept hidden, leading him to venture off on his own. Unfortunately, given that this occurred in the days before the mass adoption of computer technology and before the internet, we have no insight into any potential hidden motives. The fact he left $10 in his bank account suggests he might have intended to return to his regular life, indicating at least some thoughtfulness to his departure. Ultimately, we may never fully understand Tim's last days. His case is an enduring mystery, one that reflects how a single choice or a single tragedy can alter a life's course forever. The Hookman is one of the most enduring American urban legends, a cautionary tale often told to teenagers as a chilling reminder to remain vigilant in isolated, vulnerable situations. The story typically centers on a young couple who have driven to a secluded spot, often a lover's lane, where they hope to enjoy some time alone, if you catch my drift. As they're alone in this secluded area, they're threatened by a mysterious, hook-wielding figure lurking in the shadows. Although variations of the story exist, the central elements remain consistent: an escaped killer with a prosthetic hook for a hand, an unsuspecting pair of teens, and a near-fatal encounter. The earliest documented accounts of the Hookman legend appeared in the mid-20th century in the United States, quickly spreading through oral tradition. By the 1960s, it had become a staple of American folklore, with many parents and authority figures repeating it as a moralistic warning to adolescents. Over time, the Hookman legend spawned numerous variations, but each version retained a common motif. The potential perpetrator leaves a hook behind as eerie proof of a close call. In some tellings, the couple hears a scraping sound on the car's door, becomes frightened, and decides to leave quickly, only to discover a bloody hook caught on the handle at home. This signature element, an unmistakable menacing clue, stands at the center of what makes the Hookman legend so memorable. Unlike some urban legends that can be traced back to specific local incidents or historical figures, there's no documented case of a real Hookman terrorizing secluded lovers. This hasn't stopped the story's spread. If anything, the absence of a verifiable origin has only enhanced its mystery and appeal. The fact that the Hookman legend persists, despite lacking any factual foundation as a true crime, underscores the power of narrative to influence behavior and opinion. Even in an era dominated by fact-checking and digital archives, people remain captivated by tales that tap into primordial fears of the unknown. Also, the fact remains that while the Hookman himself definitely doesn't exist, numerous cases of lovers' lane slayings have occurred, such as in Atlanta in 1977. These real-life cases lend an air of reality to the Hookman legend,